Welcome into another episode of the Film Room. I'm really excited to be joined today by one of the star freshmen in the country this season, Syla Swords from over at the University of Michigan. Syla, first and foremost, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the most important question that anybody can ask today is, what does your Spotify Wrapped look like? Are you a Spotify person, or are you an Apple Music person?
I'm an Apple Music person,
Oh
but I
no.
didn't
Okay.
know
All
that
right.
Apple Music also did rap. And
Okay.
Drake is my number one artist, which I feel
Okay.
like is fitting.
Yeah. I mean, it fits. It gets the OVO going. But
Yeah,
well, okay. What
yeah.
was top song this year?
Top song. I think it was Holy Ground by with Nicki Minaj in it.
That's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
was
a good song. What do you mean it's not
Yeah,
bad?
it's
It's
not
a good
bad. It's a fine song. Yeah, I had Metro as my top, so I think
Okay.
we're probably slightly at odds right now, but it's a start. Um,
Yes.
I want to rewind a little bit. So it's interesting going back and listening to just all the stuff that you've done this year and headed into this year. You had a really good comment just talking about your time with the Canadian national team, saying that I wasn't the best player on court at all this summer. And I think number one, obviously that's true. When you're playing with some of the players that you're playing with, but I think there's a real power in kind of being able to say that and take stuff away from it because it's going to be the reality for anybody in your situation coming in at like 18 playing for the national team. But um, how did you kind of develop that mentality and how you feel that's kind of prepared you for this level? Because I feel like that's been such a big part of you've been able to come in and be so fluid in your play already.
I think a lot of that comes from my dad and his experience with the national team. He played in the 2000 Sydney Olympics with Steve
Mhm.
Nash and that team that made that run, and he barely made the roster. The day of cuts, the head coach came in and was supposed to cut him, but like in the meeting, he was like, "I can't cut you. You do everything right. You work hard. You're a great teammate. Like we're gonna find a spot for you." And my dad just had so much pride in wearing the Canadian jersey, whether he was playing, whether he was on the bench, he just wanted to be a part of it. So that's something that he instilled into me and my sister of just being proud that you're even on a roster, whether it's a U18 team, junior team, or whether it's the senior team in the Olympics, you're representing a great country of people. And like you just have to do your best and be grateful for every moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, kind of taking that to this, did you have an inkling of what your role was going to be heading into this year? Obviously, knowing there was some roster changing, going to be a lot of different this year. But like, what was kind of feeling coming in on what that could look like and what Kim was expecting of you?
Yeah, there was a lot of unknown coming into this season. Like you spoke about all the transfers, having five freshmen come in with only four returners. But I don't like to say I ever have expectations of myself of I should be scoring this, I should be doing this in this game. I came in with the feeling knowing I was going to impact the game one way or another, whether it was offensively or defensively. I knew I was going to have a positive impact. I was going to take it upon myself to make sure that I was helping the team in some way. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think part of what's fun with that too is like not sound cliche, but I feel like that's just your game. And I feel like part of what's fun with that is like you have so much to keep unlocking with what you can do in your game, which we're going to dive into in film in a little bit. But I think like when I just watch your game, like you score 10 to 12 points a game just by playing basketball. Like, you're good at like ducking in and finding offensive rebounds, cutting, like doing all the little things that I think go I don't like saying unnoticed because I think people notice them, but like you do it to like the 99th percentile. So it's why it matters so much. Um,
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah, no
that.
doubt. But exactly. I mean, it's part of why I loved watching you at Lehigh and part of why I'm excited for you moving forward. Like, and even talking about Lehigh, like, have you been able to kind of keep up a little bit with the success of everybody else from your class? Because just looking through it has been pretty wild, actually.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I think four out of the five of us have
Yeah.
had a Freshman of the Week honor in our conference. Kaylee Heckle's been doing a great job at a top program like USC. Lauren Swan's been great. Kate Caval's been great. I think when you're in it, it's like, okay, these are my teammates. Like we practice against each other every day. Yeah, they can ball, but like coming out of it, you're like, wait, like we were doing something special there.
Yeah.
Like all five of our seniors went Division 1, and they're making an impact at the next level. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, in terms of like having that experience at Lehigh, I think especially for you coming over from Canada to play in the states, do you kind of feel like that in some ways prepared you a little bit extra for being in this environment and like how that kind of or maybe what you take away most from that in terms of preparation for this level?
Yeah, for sure. If I wasn't at Lehigh, I wouldn't have made a senior team roster this early. I wouldn't probably wouldn't have been able to make an impact here as early as I have been, just because of the way Coach Christina runs her program. It's like a college program. Coach Rico has taken Lehigh drills from the open gyms, and we do Lehigh drills here every day in practice. Just the expectation that she holds us to, and everything she does is with an intention and with a purpose. It's run like a college level team, and I think that's been something that like you can see in her players. They adjust well, they adjust quickly, and they're making an impact in the game right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look up and down at everything Christina's done, even before you guys, and like it's been pretty wild to watch. She's fantastic. Um, but I do want to ask a couple more questions before we dive in. How I know you're in Ross, and for people who aren't aware, like Ross Business School is like so I'm from Ohio. I went to Michigan State. I had a lot of friends who are at University of Michigan. Ross is one of the hardest business schools in the country to get into. Have you been able to bond with Jordan over that at all? Because I know she was like doing a ton, toiling away with Ross stuff the last couple of years. So what has that been like for you, kind of acclimating to that so far?
It's been so helpful having her here. Just going through Ross as an upperclassman and seeing that she can handle it gives me a lot of confidence to say that, okay, like maybe if I handle it half as well as Jordan is, then I'll do okay. Knowing that there's someone that's done it in the basketball program that's been able to balance both and have a life outside of that and be a great person outside of that, it's really a confidence booster for me coming into harder classes or big exams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because easier said than done to figure some of that stuff out. Hit the ground running
Yeah.
with it. Um,
Mhm.
and then lastly, obviously, like I know you have again hit the ground running extremely well this year, but what has been the biggest adjustment for you? You feel like in coming in and playing right away at this level and getting a feel for it. Obviously, like again, like we talked about, you played on the senior national team, played a real part too. But it's different, when you're coming in, like, cool, you got to play 32, 33 minutes, and we're trying to win every game. So, like, what is that? What is maybe the thing that you've looked at that you want to improve upon the most in the next month?
Honestly, the biggest difference has been the reffing and the foul calls. Even basketball, international basketball is so much more physical and they let a lot more go. So for me, it's just been trying to figure out how I can make an impact defensively without putting myself in situations to get early foul calls and learning about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's exactly what I was going to say because I think you are a good defender, but it's
Thank
just
you.
exactly like you're talking about. It's really hard to come in and kind of judge that. And I feel like I think you, especially during the Thanksgiving tournament, I feel like you made some real strides with that. But in general, like when you come in, like you can notice, like, okay, you're giving somebody an extra gap that you typically wouldn't after the first game or two because you're like, oh shoot, like
Yes,
I can't get fouls like this. So it takes like a lot of adjustment for sure. And I think that's something that kind of always goes under the radar is how hard it
yeah.
can be to kind of find that.
Yeah, my first time playing overseas basketball, I came like U17 national team, came back, played an A tournament right after, and I think I had four fouls within my first like shift of playing. It's crazy. It was like an eye
Yeah.
opener.
It's very different. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
especially too, like, when you're somebody who's using off-ball screens all the time,
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
well, you're getting jammed up like
Yep.
crazy, like, it makes it way harder. There's just so much going on, but,
Mhm.
so while we're diving through some clips, just if there's anything you want me to pause, stop, go back to, let me know.
Okay.
Just, pulling through a couple of things that are, obviously stack up with what we're talking about. So I think one of the things that always stands out for me right away in watching is like your balance. Cause like when I think of your game, you're a slasher. Like you can really do so much with the ball in your hands. And I mean, this is tough. Like there very often if you get pushed baseline, teams want to push you baseline. They want to push the player baseline to like, okay, cool, get uncomfortable. And then you're just like this year, there's not a lot of people who can do that. Where do you feel like that kind of first came from for you, or how that's kind of become something that you have become pretty adept at doing?
Mhm. I think it comes from my dad's coaching. He would coach me and my sister like we were a bunch of guys. He would have us jump in the guys' workouts. He was a university coach before coming to the G
Yeah.
League in Canada, and he'd have us jump in the workouts. We wouldn't do finishes of dunks or backboard touches when we were too small at the time, but he coached us like a bunch of guys, and like we had the athleticism of guys. So I think that was like the way we move, the balance we have, the core stability we have when we're playing. I think a lot of that comes from those training sessions.
No, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. Especially too, like in talking about the balance aspect. I think so much of being balanced is being ambidextrous and like I know what hand you use, but like watching your game, I feel like it's hard to tell sometimes because you can really do stuff with both, and that matters a lot because I don't know if you felt it, but teams really tried to play you certain ways after the
Mm.
first games, even after the first half of the season. So it's been fun to watch that because even here, like I think again, we know you can shoot, so your ability to just finish like you're really good playing off too, but also some of the like kind of highlight reel stuff you finished with, like stride stops, anything like that. Like it's yeah, it's pretty awesome. I don't
Yeah.
have a better way to put it, but like um the only thing I have about this though, where did the one calf sleeve first come for you? Like when did you first start doing that?
That's happened over the summer. I had
Yeah.
some, like, a little bit of injury problems, so it's mostly just keeping my calf tight, keeping it warm, preventing other stuff from flaring up.
Okay, I'd
But
make sure. I
I think
wasn't
it
sure if it
looks
was a
cool
fashion.
too.
It does look really cool.
I
I'm
think it
like,
looks cool too.
yeah, last player I remember doing was like MJ. So like,
Okay.
it's good to have your own individuality
Yeah.
with it.
Uh-huh.
And then right here too, just again, like you end up drawing the foul off this, but like again, being able to play in tight spaces off drives is so big time. Um, like I mean, it's obviously it's you just reading, playing off the ball, being able to make plays like that, but um, especially playing off two all the time. Because I feel like again, like that's such a big part in finishing. I'm assuming that's just a lot of your dad too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Was
Yeah.
the most he instilled that with you? Like, was there ever like kind of like a lesson with that, or how did you kind of just reinforce playing on two?
Yeah, I think with most coaches I've talked to, it's if you're not going off 2, then you better be finishing a layup because it's gonna be hard to make a pass. But just being smart when you're going off of 1, making sure you're protecting the ball, but most times it's best to go off 2 for balance and even just for decision making if they cut off, a quick read.
No, absolutely. Right here too. Obviously, you missed the shot, but like this is what we're talking about with what I really like about your game. I think you are so good at always following. Like, the best way that I can describe it is so often if somebody takes a shot, misses a shot, or a play quote unquote stops in your head because possession can change. Like people have like a lag time, right? And they'll like
Mm,
stop and think about it, or they'll wait to do something. And you just like go. And I think this is
mm.
so big because it's like it's two quick points that happen because you just go. Like instead of standing or fake getting back, like this is. I mean, it's just. I think in the South Carolina game, like half your points came off of just offensive rebounds and being in the right place at the right time. So like in kind of feeling that stuff out, like does that kind of just always come naturally for you, or how have you kind of come to that?
A lot of that has been developed over the summertime. The pro game is just so much faster, the IQ is so much higher that you don't have as much time to react, as much time to make mistakes. For our team, it was if you weren't spreading back on defense, you were making a play to get the offensive rebound. And so just the constant repetition of that, our coach would yell at us after every drill if we weren't getting back on defense. So just constant repetition and practice, it's becoming a habit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what was that like for you in terms of getting pro coaching this early on? Because obviously, like we mentioned, like Christine is incredible. Obviously, Kim's incredible, but like it's just different when you go to that level, especially this early on. So like, was there kind of a maybe like a moment that made you be like, wow, okay, this is like this is a different level.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. They moved so fast through practices. It was you do the drill once, you get it right, it's the next drill. They explain it once and you're expected to know everything and do everything right. There's room for mistakes, but you can't make the same mistake twice. So just the pace of how fast practices move through, and it's not always necessarily. I find in college and high school, it's repetition. We're doing this so many times in a row. If you don't do it right, you're on the baseline. As a pro, it's harder to tell four-time Olympian and WNBA All-Star that you got to run a 17 if you make a turnover. So a lot of just the IQ piece, and it's not so much repetitions, but you just need to do it right the first time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was listening to a coach talk the other day, and he mentioned like when I was in college because he transitioned from college to pro over the last year. He's like my last time in college 2 years ago, we had 117 practices like before we even got to the tournament, and then
Yeah.
this past year we're like headed into the finals in the NBA, and we've had this is practice 42, and that's like you think about like how much extra time that is. Like it's just different. Like you don't have time to actually continue repping out. So it's like you said. I think the fast decision making, everything is just it's so different. But yeah, even so, again, right here on just like cuts, duckins, like you just never stop moving. It's so big in unlocking that that extra gear. Like I don't think people recognize like whenever I'm working with a player, I always say the best way to become a better scorer is to do the things that aren't scoring. Like if you can find ways to stick on the floor without having to score, you're gonna find ways to score. It's like it's just it sounds counterintuitive, but it's just again so real in watching the game. This is probably my favorite shot of yours from this year. I don't think people would recognize on average how difficult a shot that is to make. And again, like we talk about balance, but
My mom was my shooting coach,
oh, okay,
like, all through that. She played university basketball, led the country in three-point percentage one of her years playing university, and so during COVID, she would have me we had a little hoop in our basement. It was 10 feet, but it was probably about the size of the inner circle. That's how much room we had, and we'd shoot 200 form shots every day in COVID
wow,
just to get that right, get it feeling good because we couldn't get in a gym because everything was locked down in Canada, but just to make sure that my mechanics were good. If I wasn't shooting from the 3-point line, I was swishing all of them from inside the circle, the smile at least. So she's been great. She watches film with me. When I was little, she would record it in slow motion, say, "Oh, your left hand's getting involved." But she's my shooting coach. My dad would never claim to be my shooting coach. It's
okay,
all my
interesting.
mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's good to know. It's cool because exactly what you're talking about. Like just I mean, your shot prep is so clean and so quick. Like because I think so much what we're talking about with the program too is, I mean, that's the point. Like it's I don't know how to explain it to people other than like there are a million people who can really shoot the basketball. But as soon as you get into a setting where okay, you have to shoot the basketball in like 0.75 seconds. You don't
Mhm.
have 5 seconds to load up and like get properly into everything. So like that's why I love this shot because
Mhm.
backpedaling on balance, compact right away and up and into it. Like that's a pro level shot.
Yeah, that
Um,
was a lot with those training camps too. I remember my first one with our pro coach, Victor Lapina. My first senior camp, he put me next to Bridget Carlton and had me try and release my shots as quick as her. And I was like, what am I doing here? It's Bridget Carlton, WNBA, like great player. She's known for her shooting, and I'm trying to shoot at the same cadence as she is as a 16-year-old. Like, but it's just like small, like when you look back at it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense why my shot is fast now. But when you're doing it, it's like, what am I doing? I'm out of place. I'm not in my comfort
Yeah,
right
and
now.
it totally messes with everything too, like, in terms of
Uh-huh.
getting that feel back again of where you're at. Um,
Mhm.
right here too, so, like, part of what is really fun is, again, in this game, like, you started getting they started really playing to your drive because you were doing such good stuff, attacking off second side, and then, again, it's just your ability to read and your patience is really, really cool to watch because I think, again, it's rare to have that already at 18. And like you watch this too, because to me, like even going through and watching all of your games, like I think there's even more that you're going to be able to keep doing playing out of ball screens because that's so much of what you guys do in your offense. Um, yeah, so I just love seeing that because in general, like I mean, you see it automatically, like, cool, it's kind of a botched switch, like, what isn't really supposed to be a switch, but then you take advantage of it right away, and, like, again, the timing piece, everything is timing and being able to take advantage of that. Especially getting more comfortable running out of ball screens, like, I wanted to ask just in general because one of the reasons that I have always loved watching you play is, like I don't know how much you watch the W coming up, but in general, like wing play is just kind of just now becoming a thing in the W. Like we've had wings, but for the most part, I think this next couple of years is going to be like the first time where we've had players who, since they were in AAU, were like playing on the wing. And I feel like for you, that's why I love your game because you're just like a true wing player who can really you can handle, you can play without the ball, you can do everything a wing's supposed to do. Is that something that just kind of was like that's something your dad and your mom taught you, or is that something that you just kind of that's just how it kind of happened growing up?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I was always taught like own your role, do your role to the best of your ability. So whether I was playing point guard, whether I was in the post because I was taller when I was younger, or on the wing, I was just trying to do the best that I could and learn as much as I could to be successful at that position. And that a lot of that's instilled from my parents too, of like just enjoying where you are and taking advantage of every opportunity you get. So I'm on the wing, I'm on the ball, off the ball. I'm gonna do my best to help my team win.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna just scroll ahead to get to our last couple because I kept us a little bit too long. But like right here, um, I think this is one of your best drives of the season. I don't know if you've gotten to go back and watch this one. This is like just the finish in general. Like I love some of the finishing stuff you have because I love again just getting as soon as you get off that first step on the interior, the high gather is so good for like just balance, getting compacting in, and then just like circus finish. Where did you kind of get into some of these finishes? Because you've really pulled out a lot of them, particularly with like anything underhand getting up.
Mm.
Is that something you just have kind of always worked on, or where does that come from for you?
Yeah, that was during COVID too in our little
Yeah.
hoop in the basement. Again, we didn't have a lot of space, so it was form shooting or it was trying to do these crazy acrobatic finishes. My family would be watching TV and a commercial break would come on and we'd say, okay, who wants to play horse? Who wants to play pig during the commercial break? And it'd be us just trying to like around with our finishes, see who could make a cool move. And it's been really helpful actually, just having confidence with my touch around the rim, trying new things, not being afraid to mess up sometimes, but it's fun to finish like that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you say because I think so much of points like often people think like, oh, if you're pulling out something that's more like highlight reel, like, oh, it's probably not as efficient or effective. But like you said, I think it's just confidence. Same thing as with a shot. Like if you've done something and repped it out, that's how you get comfortable doing it at a game and making it worth doing. Um, and then to close, like I think first off, this Lehigh team for people who haven't watched Lehigh, they're really tough. They do a ton of stuff off the ball and with screening in general. Um, I liked this game because I felt like you kind of start to see you get comfortable a little bit on defense. Like you guys play a lot of, making sure that you're sounding your gap and also not, you don't want to give anything up. But in general, like you've been hit with a lot of screens this season so far. Um, so I just love like again, just playing gaps, being strong on your closeout, and ended up forcing you traveling late in the shot clock. Um, but just to close on the defensive piece, what has that been like getting hit with as many screens? Because I don't know if you felt that, but you've been run through a lot of screens to start this season. It's particularly, I think that Belmont game, like Belmont
Yeah.
was nasty with some of the stuff they do off the ball.
Surprisingly, it's not as much as I was with the Olympics. In
Yeah.
the Olympics, I was guarding the point guard, I was guarding the quickest player on the floor, and the amount of screens they would run for Sammy Whitcomb on Australia was like every
Oh
possession I
yeah.
was off of something. And those are like big grown women. So it's something I've gotten used to. It's like, okay, it is what it is. I'm going to try and get through. I'm going to try and impact the play as much as I can, but it's not as many screens in the Olympics as in my mind at least.
Definitely. Well,
Uh-huh.
Sila, I really appreciate your time. To everyone watching and listening, of course, keep up with everything Sila and the Wolverines are doing. We have a somehow Big Ten players right around the corner, which is like just jarring. But is there anything you want to shout or mention before we get out of here?
No, thank you for having me.
No doubt.